Honorable members, select paragraphs from the address by the President of India, Srimati Draupadi Murmuji, to Parliament, and the rest may be taken as read. Honorable members, it gives me a great pleasure to address both houses of Parliament assembled together. A few months back, our country completed 75 years of independence and entered the Amrit Kal. This Amrit Kal period of 25 years is the period of golden centenary of independence and making of a developed India. In almost 9 years of my government's term, the people of India have witnessed many positive changes for the first time. Honorable members, Lord Basveshwar had said, Kai Kave Kailash, which means Karma is worship and Shiva is in the Karma itself. Following this path, my government is actively engaged in performing the duty of nation building. Today, India has a government working at unprecedented speed and scale. Today, I express my gratitude through this session to the people of the country for electing a stable government for 2 consecutive terms. Over the years, the country has developed a stable and transparent regime in the form of DBT and Digital India. Today, the monetary benefits of more than 300 schemes are directly reaching the bank accounts of the beneficiaries. So far, an amount of more than rupees 27 lakh crores has reached crores of beneficiaries with complete transparency. To provide Har Ghar Jal, my government has started Jal Jeevan Mission. In the last few years, the government has provided Pakka houses to more than 3.5 crore poor families.
We just heard from the President of the country, President Draupadi Murmu, and the Vice President, of course, is speaking right now. This was the President's first joint address to the Parliament at the beginning of the budget session today. She's spoken about a range of issues, talking about how the world's outlook towards India essentially has changed. She's also spoken about the kind of efforts India has made vis-a-vis the pandemic, talking about the fact. We're just going to go across to my colleague and our National Affairs Editor, Rahul Srivastav, for the very latest. Rahul, first your take on what the President has said. The biggest takeaway for you as far as her first speech, her first joint address to Parliament is concerned. Rahul.
See, I think the President of India covered most of the performances and achievements of the government, and also perhaps dictated what could be called the agenda for tomorrow. There was some, I think, very interesting that the government knows that this is a very critical year. This is the budget session and all eyes of the public are on Parliament and the address. And that is why I found very interesting that there was a kind of a ready reckoner that the President of India has spoken about in a speech about what the government has been able to achieve. For example, she talked about that 11,000 homes for poor being made daily, 2.5 lakh daily broadband connections, 55,000 gas connections, 700 crore loan on Mudra daily. Every month there are medical colleges one medical college being opened in the country. Every day 2 colleges being opened. There is a very interesting comparison vis-a-vis the UPA period from 2004 to 2014 and since 2014 to 22, that is the Modi regime, in which it is talked about that in 2004 to 14 there were only 145 medical colleges opened, 14 to 22 260. Similarly, corridors, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and aviation sector, how it has grown, that there are now 147 airports in the country, while in the UPA period in 2014 there were 74. What one can say is that the President of India's speech presents that the government, despite having the triple shocks uh, uh, in terms of economy and the various challenges because of COVID, Ukraine-Russia war, and I think the responses of the federal banks across the world, central banks across the world in terms of tightening, how the economy has been salvaged. The great emphasis, I think, in the speech repeatedly was the poor. If you listen to how the President talked about the Jan Kalyan Yojana, how India the Indian government managed to keep crores out of the poverty cycle or slipping into a poverty trap during the COVID period and the period beyond, was, I think, one of the key elements. In fact, the president, what is controversial, I think the opposition is going to attack the government for that because the speech eventually is prepared by the cabinet, is that the president talked about the policy paralysis in the regimes before the NDA government took charge in 2014. And there was a very stark comparison created in which she talked about policy paralysis in prior to Modi government and the Nirnayak Sarkar, Garibi Unmolan Wali Sarkar, super speed और स्केल पे काम करने वाली सरकार, जन कल्याण वाली सरकार, महिलाओं की बाधा दूर करने वाली सरकार, वैश्विक भूमिका निभाने वाली सरकार. So the presentation is that there has been a complete reversal as well as the governance, the quality of governance and the quality of impact, quantity of impact of the governance. I think the speech looked very much like how the government will like the speech to be taken as far as public is concerned. This is the year in which the government will like to work extensively to prepare itself for the 2024 Lok Sabha elections. There will be an interim budget. I'm very sure that like 2019, the government will slip in some SOP or otherwise for the public. But I think from here on, I think the government has technically declared that it is heading for elections.
You know, Rahul, that's an important point that you make. The very fact that the President has today once again highlighted about the fact that this is a stable government and fractured mandates essentially don't really work. Wherever there is political instability, those countries are surrounded by massive crisis. I think there's a big message there from the President today. Okay, just going across to Rahul Srivastava in a few moments from now, but these are the highlights of what has been said by President Draupadi Murmu. My colleague Aishwarya is also with us. Aishwarya, talking about his speech, and I'm going to put that question to you right now, is the manner in which the President has spoken and underscored the need for political stability, saying that a stable and decisive government is being reaped by us against the biggest crisis in 100 years, and that countries where there is political instability, there is bound to be crisis.
Well, definitely, you know, what this clearly points to is the fact is that the government is fully gearing up for 2024, and we should not be surprised, Neha, because the Prime Minister very recently categorically said only 400 days are left for the big 2024 election. So obviously, for them, the countdown has begun, and we will see this reflect in the budget that the FM, Nirmala Sitharaman, will read out tomorrow. In fact, from what we understand in the economic survey, which will be tabled today, we will see the work that the government has done, how the economic boost has taken place, and it's not just over the past 2 to 3 years. From what we are gathering from our sources, it will be a culmination of what has happened over the past 8 years. All those things will be talked about and what the government wants to do in the coming years. We could also see a roadmap being laid out for the next 3 to 4 years. So that is also something that the government will speak about. And let me tell you, given what's happening in the United States, in Europe, the kind of layoffs that we are seeing, it is extremely important for the government to make sure that India's economy is on the right track, and we see economic boom in coming years. That will be very, very crucial for the people. The opposition, however, they are obviously, saying that they don't want to listen to what the government has to say. They are talking about inflation. They are also talking about the things that have happened over the past few days. We will see that clash taking place. But as far as the government is concerned, they are very the focus is very clear. Focus is 2024, and we will see that the glimpses of that in the budget that the FM will read out tomorrow.